but I'm going to make this something instead of just being like, I'm just going to throw myself out there.
Right.
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset.
If you get one shot at this, what kind of shot are you going to take?
If we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are.
And you've got an adversity story that's out of this world.
Everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer.
All right, Erica, can you tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what it is that you're doing right now?
Absolutely. So I am currently consulting. I've created my own consulting firm, although it's just me right now. And I focus really on marketing and building brands across I tend to sort of specialize and focus on the kids and family business, but it's interesting how I got there, and I'll tell you a little bit more. But I'm based in Los Angeles. And I sort of stumbled upon this role and this opportunity to create my own business, by happenstance, given the pandemic. And I it was out of necessity, but it's actually proved to be validating and challenging and scary and terrifying, but exciting all in one. So I'm really excited, but it's sort of all my career sort of boiled up into one, and it's working out really well.
Fantastic. So you said branding, marketing services for what kind of business exactly?
So I focus on the kids and family category, or the target audience, but that could be anything from entertainment. So building IP, building brands, or my current sort of core client has actually been a toy store. So a hybrid toy experience play destination for kids and families. That's a startup and growing nationwide, but they're really focusing on, obviously targeting kids and families to come in and have an interactive, immersive play experience while they're shopping for toys. And they want to sort of market it in a way that appeals to families. And it's a background that I'm really familiar with. So I was able to translate that to this business.
Okay. So a lot of our audience is business owners or people wanting to get into business. And I know from my experience, marketing to children under the age of 13 specifically is extremely hard on the internet.
Yes.
So are you on that family services? Are you focusing on 13 and up, or do you actually go below like the kind of the bounce house kind of places? It's really targeted towards a 5 to 10. Are you targeting that lower age? And if you are, do you target the parents or do you target the children?
That's a really good question. It's not just recommended not to target them. It's illegal. So we definitely, there are strict guidelines around targeting and advertising to kids that I'm very familiar with. My background is that we did actually create content and find ways to market to kids in an entertaining way, as long as it was entertaining and not doing hard sales. That was a lot of my sort of previous experience. Currently, it's about going to the parents. So really, we're targeting parents. But with opportunities for co-view and co-engagement so that kids can sort of see and engage with the content with their parents. Right. But really we're going after the parents and getting them to giving them solutions. For my current client, it's about giving them solutions of what to do today. What are you going to get? What are you going to do with your family today? We have a solution for you. So it's really for parents now, but I have definitely been in the thick of how do we still market to kids and get them excited about the brands, but very respectfully and following all guidelines. So that has been my past before this.
So is it, and just so that we know here, and you're familiar with this, you're not a lawyer, so we're not asking for necessarily legal advice, but in your expertise, is the law you can't directly sell to somebody under 13, or you can't create marketing material that would engage them?
There are many very specific directions and legalities and nuances to what you can and can't say. There's certain verbiage you can use, there's certain like language, vocabulary, visuals that you can and can't use. You can't put an advertisement for an IP. So let's say, actually, I did my senior college thesis on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and talked all about this. You can't put a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle commercial in the middle of a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle TV show, because kids can't differentiate between the show that they're being entertained by and the commercial that they're being sold to. So there's a lot of nuances. So what you do is you do try to create entertaining content, which is why so many toy companies, some of which is background I have, are creating content nowadays. They're creating movies, they're creating TV shows, they're creating YouTube content, because YouTube is all about as much as they don't want to admit it, they absolutely attract kids like crazy in terms of, engagement. So they're creating narrative content. So it's about storytelling. They may use products. So they may do stop motion animation or doll play when they're doing, let's say, with dolls or race cars. But they can't say buy this now. They can't say enter now. They can't say click here. They can't say now on sale. None of that. So it's about entertaining on one side and then the hard sale, which is 13 plus on the other side.
So after 13, we can hard sell it. We can say, buy now, you need this. This will make your life better. Before the age of 13, our government has said they don't have the mental capability to do that. They probably don't have a credit card anyway. Right. But the trick there, and you said a really cool word. You said co-engagement, I think is how you phrase that.
Co-viewing, yep.
Tell us a little bit about how do you create something in the internet that ends up, what is this co-viewing that you're talking about? I want to hear more.
This is really fun. I mean, and I think it's a challenge that every marketer right now, especially in that space, are trying to tap into. It's, we know that adults, especially parents and moms are, they're on TikTok, they're on Instagram, and they're engaging content habitually, regularly. And they may be given, let's say, a craft that they want to then also recreate with their kids. So there's a great handle called Dad Lab or Dad Labs.
Okay.
I'm breaking. And he has his son doing all these science experiments, which are fantastic. And they're so simple and they're with household products. That's an example of something that a parent might be like, oh, this is really, really cute and really fun. And now I'm going to go do it with my child. And maybe we'll watch it together because it has a child in it doing it. And it's very relatable to the kid. So that's an example of something that is meant to be something that a kid could watch, but probably under supervision in theory with their parent. But it's cooking instructional videos, how-tos, crafts, all that sort of stuff. Activities, fun things to do are really, really entertaining to do with adults and with kids. Right.
So TikTok is brain fodder, right? I'm just going through. Most of it's intended for single use, single viewership watching, right? So TikTok is scrolling up, not really paying much attention to the content that I have. Or sharing it with anybody. I might tag somebody or comment, but I'm not going to share it with somebody necessarily. But occasionally I'll show my phone to my wife and say, hey, look at this, and she'll watch it. That would be content with the intention of getting somebody, for you to show it to somebody else, or you say, hey, come here and watch this with me, right? What is one of the better platforms?
But I was going to say, I beg to differ. I would actually beg to differ really quickly about TikTok because I actually think it's evolving. So TikTok is interesting because cooking videos are doing gangbusters on TikTok right now. They're really quick, sort of also ASMR. Those are like an angle that people take, but there are recipes that are going viral. Obviously, everyone saw the Emily Mariko salmon rice video. Then there's the Baked by Melissa salad. That's something that they expect people to then recreate in their home. So yes, it's definitely entertaining and for fodder and to share like, oh, look at this great thing. But now there's more and more that are these really quick, meant for TikTok, but how-tos that you can actually recreate in your home. So I think that it's transitioning, and it's more and more are going to actually become utility versus entertainment. Not versus, there'll be a room for all. But I think there's more and more utility content coming out on TikTok than ever before. Otherwise, I think Instagram for sure there's opportunity there with reels and there's stories. YouTube has always been a go-to that, YouTube is a great search engine for how-tos. So I think it'll continue to be set that way. So all of those are also marketing angles and platforms that we all, from a marketing standpoint, need to take into consideration depending on the content we want to distribute. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So YouTube is a great place for how-tos, great search engine for that. TikTok today is really going towards this, giving you content that's relevant to you, right? Which we're not sure how that algorithm is going to happen long term. But the concept of creating content in a way that promotes you going to show that to somebody else. Would you consider even tagging somebody else co-viewing then?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it's if there's there's a number of ways that you can use tagging. You can obviously use tagging if you're relating it or using somebody's inspired by somebody else's content as a way to be like, add credibility to the piece that you've created. Or if you want to do something with a friend, let's say, and say, oh, we should try this and tag somebody else. There's an opportunity to do that. I think that there's definitely different ways that you can do that. When it comes to obviously doing something with your child, I think you just have to set it up in the right way. It's like grab your child and like, here's a great cooking, recipe for you guys to do together. So
right.
It really
awesome.
Depends. Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about, obviously you're deep into the toy market. I love it. I love toys. Can you tell us about what you were doing prior to, so you found this company during the pandemic, during the shutdown, I'm assuming, right? And California was shut down longer than most states, not quite as long as Canada, but longer than most of the states, right?
Yes, California was definitely on the stricter side, and they've continued to kind of be on the more conservative side of being on the side of caution. My story is interesting. So my background is in media and entertainment. I had spent a lot of time at MTV back in the day when it had its resurgence in the early 2000s and mid 2000s. And I had an incredible time there. I worked in the ad sales marketing field where I partnered with advertisers and came up with custom solutions to integrate them into content. It was a lot of fun. I happened to work on a virtual world pre sort of metaverse, very before its time, called VMTV, where we created a virtual world about, inspired by the scenes found in MTV shows. It was amazing and fascinating. I worked with advertisers to integrate them in there. And we all joke now, we were there before metaverse was even a thing.
Yes.
And then I moved over to the Walt Disney Company, and I've actually been there 3 times. Two out of the 3 was in the ad sales marketing area and working on their digital platforms, Disney.com, and again, finding ways to integrate advertisers. The most recent time, which will eventually transition me into this, into where I am today, was I was overseeing brand marketing for the Disney Princess franchise. So on behalf of sort of the corporate level, establishing their North Star message. What do we want people to feel? What do we want people to think about when you watch a Disney film? It was when Disney Plus was getting launched. The entire library was getting re-released on Disney Plus at its launch. So how do we reintroduce these characters and get people to think about them differently? Because they aren't all about finding their prince and they aren't weak. They're actually strong, empowered heroines. So we wanted to position it that way. Incredible job, dream job, absolute dream job. Loved it. Pandemic hit. I was furloughed along with hundreds of thousands of other employees of the Walt Disney Company. And time went on, and it was a struggle to try to figure out when they couldn't tell me anything. They didn't know. So they really, time went on, and I needed to sort of figure out what I was going to do next. I was offered an opportunity to change to a toy company. I had previously worked at Mattel for a couple of years as well. And I had done content strategy, which is why I'm very familiar with YouTube and TikTok and social and all that stuff. And so I joined this toy company, and it was not the right cultural fit for me. And it was somewhat short-lived. But while I was there, I was introduced to the CEO of this current company that's now my client. That job ended, and I was sort of in a position of, I can't go back to Disney. I gave that one went away.
Right.
And this job is no longer here for me. What do I do? So I started networking, which is one thing that I would recommend for anybody, is building relationships and keeping those relationships strong and nurturing them, making sure you continue to communicate with them is so critical. It has continued to pay off for me throughout my entire career, but especially now. So this one was a newer relationship, but I ended up reaching out and saying, I loved what you presented to us, and I love what you're doing. I know you're not based in LA, but if you need any marketing help, I'd love to help you. And he happened to be in a position, it was also a good timing. And he said, you know what? We don't really have any marketing right now. What can you do for us? And I put a proposal together, and I've been working with them since last June, July.
Awesome.
And that was a serendipitous sort of, but I worked toward that one too. You gotta do those. And here I am today. They've been my primary client. I've had some side projects and some passion projects as well, but I've been very fortunate in that they came out of this crazy time in my life when I really didn't know where to go, and also felt a little burned in a way of, I don't want to join I want to start out on my own now. I want to sort of date before I get married and find a company if I'm going to go back to one before I dive in and commit. So this is proving to be a great opportunity.
So I definitely want to talk about the experience-based businesses and the future for all of those things. I think it's really, really important. And I love the way you frame this company that you're working for now, who's your kind of your keynote client. But when you decided to start the company, you kind of asked somebody, hey, are you interested in hiring me to do some marketing services? And did you have it in your head, hey, I'm going to start a business out of this? Or kind of, hey, I can do some kind of ad hoc stuff while this pandemic's going on while I look for a real job?
I started to, that's a very good question. And I don't know how to answer that. I think I went at it kind of from both, right? I knew I needed something to sustain my life. I am, for those that want to know, I'm a single mother and I am full-time work, right. and I knew I needed to maintain my life. I needed to survive. So I knew I needed work. But I looked at my experience and I thought I could consult. I have enough background. I have enough experience that I have a lot to give. And it's very diverse. My background is very diverse from ad sales marketing and across every platform, marketing, ad sales, partnerships, business development. It's right. Events. Like I have a very blessing and curse, the fact that I have all this experience. So I looked at it as an opportunity. Yes, I could sort of build a business. And so I started I named my consultancy. I created a website. I created a capabilities deck. I made it into a business and so that I could offer my services. But It was a means to an end. It was a means to survival. But it was like, but I'm going to make this something instead of just being like, I'm just going to throw myself out there.
Right. Okay. So you did that with some intention, right? You built the website, you have products, you got services, you got templates for proposals and stuff like that. It was an intentional thing that you went out and decided to do based on, and I guess you made that decision based on your previous experience. This is in your wheelhouse.
Absolutely. Right? Absolutely.
How important was it for you to get that first anchor client?
It was very important. I mean, and honestly, it was important, honestly, for my self-esteem, for my motivation, for my confidence. I mean, I know they're all related. I was anxious and nervous until only a few months ago. I'm going to be totally honest because
it'll come back. I promise.
Yeah, I know. It's all.
It always comes full circle.
Exactly. But that being said, if you are relying so heavily on one specific client to be your core income, you never know. And especially if you're under contract, you never know when that's going to go away. At what point, every little move I made, I was questioning if I did it well enough that they would keep me. Every moment that I would hear about their whatever funding stage they might be in, they were a startup. So that's another thing. It's can they afford to keep anybody like me? And do they need me in the long run? I felt like, and I think as it's proven to be, they did need somebody there to do the function that I was doing. Right. And so I always knew that, but the anxiety was so high. And honestly, it's calmed down a little bit, but you're right. It's never going to go away because you're an entrepreneur. You're on your own. You're building a business and there is no contract in place. There's no legal anything in place. They could just say tomorrow, you know what, we're good. And it's so stressful.
Yeah, it's a really good point. If you're out there in the world and you're like, hey, Facebook, TikTok, there's all these opportunities to go into marketing services today. And I truly, honestly believe, and I probably wouldn't be doing this show if I didn't believe this, that storytelling is the next big market to really tackle. And it's been the market for a very, very long time, but now it's really accessible to all kinds of people.
Oh, yeah.
But if you're going to start an agency and you're going to go out and get customers that are going to fund you, the difference in having a client and being an employee is wildly different. They can fire you for not creating value if you're a vendor in seconds without ever thinking about it. But I promise you, every CEO, vice president, executive is going to think twice before they fire an employee for any reason. Absolutely. Right? They're gonna do everything that they can to keep that employee. And most companies, it's part of their core values that their employees are their best asset. They want to maintain them. So it is much riskier to start a marketing firm than it is to go out and look for a marketing job. Although all things that are challenging end up being wildly more rewarding. Absolutely. If you take the more challenging route, if you can pull it off, right? And because of that, I think today, do you think that's why more companies are hiring marketing agencies? instead of bringing their marketing in-house, because there's not a magic recipe for how to create there are recipes for creating funnels, right? And sales process and all of those things, but it is slightly different and it doesn't work for every single product, right? And the difference between selling $100 product and selling a $5,000 product is the process is wildly different, right? So you think that's why the marketing agencies are popping up so frequently, is because companies are hiring them at a greater rate?
I think it's actually because, yes, but I think they're hiring them at a greater rate is because there are so many platforms now that all of these agencies have a niche, right? And they specialize in specific platforms. There are TikTok specific platforms now. There are multicultural, agencies out there. So there are agencies and marketing firms out there that are really trying to fill a niche, a marketing niche that these agencies might need to tap into for specific campaigns. So that's why I think they outsource, right? They may have kind of generalists that they've hired inside to kind of manage these campaigns, but they may not be a specialist in multicultural marketing. So they'll look to an agency who has that, or they may be trying to enter TikTok and they may not know how to do that. And so they'll look to a specific TikTok or social agency to do that. And so I think that's why they're popping up so much, is because there are so many platforms and screens and touch points out there, not even just screens and platforms. You've got experiential now. That's a whole, now we're back in a place we can actually do it again because people are getting out there. And there's specialists in that. And then there's people who want to drive sales versus just awareness. So it's also, there's so many nuances that there are agencies dedicated to any given little facet of marketing that you may want to hire various. At every company I've worked for, we've had multiple for various needs. So. Yeah.
I have a guy that just does, the only thing he does is YouTube SEO.
Yeah.
That's it. Right.
Exactly. And that's a whole language that you need to be fluent in that I certainly don't know.
I'm happy to pay him every single month to do that specific job. So, but I also have generalists that do kind of all kinds of things. And it is challenging to know, like TikTok, you have to create content for TikTok. You can fluff it, and I fluff TikTok pretty bad, right? I'm putting out bad content for TikTok. I know it. But I figure I'm better off being there than not being there. Right? Yep. So, and that's kind of my take on it.
The algorithm, just feed it. Yeah, you got to just feed it.
Yeah, so I think it's okay. But changing gears quite a bit, and let's go way back over to that experience-based business, which is what I think is going to be one of the only kinds of businesses left post-pandemic. And I don't know if this is going to be 2 years or 10 years, but the experience-based, and nobody does experience-based better than Disney. Mm-hmm. And it's surprising that all these restaurants are just like, oh, we'll just serve food. And then these chefs like, oh, we'll just put equipment in here, that they've gotten away with it for so long, right? Knowing that Disney has created this business model of entertain them and tell them stories. And you never have to actually ask them to buy anything. They just beg you to take their money.
I know.
Right?
I know. I know.
And it's bizarre to me that mentality hasn't sunken in deeper into Main Street mom and pop shops. You're doing this with a toy store today. And Toys R Us was the biggest toy store in the country for a long time. And there was no experience there.
Every time I describe this company to people, I'm like, Toys R Us would not have gone out of business had they done what this company is doing. This is what Toys R Us should have been doing the whole time. And now these guys came in and found a white space and are going to, they're still startup, but they're going to kill it.
Yeah. So, can you tell us a little bit about this new company that you're working with?
Yeah, they're called Camp. They just opened their 9th location this past weekend. They in Los Angeles. They originated out of the New York City area. Their flagship is on 5th Avenue in New York City. They have about 4 locations in and around New York. They're in Connecticut, and they just opened Boston, New Jersey, Dallas. So they're just getting started. And speaking of Disney, they actually just announced a partnership with Disney. They're creating a ticketed experience. What they've done also, they have a couple models. So they have their toy store as their core sort of business driver, but they also have ticketed experiences. So Camp is known as the store with the magic door. I don't want to give too much away. I just encourage people to go check it out, but They have a hidden wall in their sort of front cantina or store. And in the back is sort of a play space, right? It's where you can go and interact. the LA store is right now has arts and crafts. They have classes. You can scooter around the store. You can go down slides. You can open up any toy and play with it there and check it out and test it out.
Okay.
It's incredible. But in some of their other locations, they have ticketed experiences in that back space behind the magic door. And they're narrative led. We have the Paw Patrol experience in Boston right now. They have Cosmic Camp in Brooklyn, which is a space-themed sort of intergalactic adventure. So you buy tickets for that. So consider it like a pop-up, but it's for months at a time. And then it moves to a new location, a new store, so that it can give another city the opportunity to engage and play.
Science centers and museums do that a lot, right? They move displays from one museum.
Exactly.
Awesome.
So it's fantastic. So they've got the ticket model, they've got the retail model, they've got e-com. So they're kind of doing it all as a way to engage and bring it and give people reasons to come to their brick and mortar store.
Right.
Because that's exactly the what you're saying. Like, people won't come unless they're incentivized. You can get everything online now. To come,
but you can't get experience.
You can't get experience. So that's exactly what they're doing. It's amazing.
Absolutely. And I think, when they're pulling it off, it sounds like they're knocking it out of the park, out of the gate. I think it's the only way to sell toys, right? Is to let the kids play with the toys. It just makes a lot of sense in the world.
I mean, you have to engage people at every touch point when it comes to selling toys and selling merchandise to kids and families. You have to think about, I call it the omni entertainment franchise, those big brands that think about every omni marketing. So every touch point and, around. So you think about content, consumer products, experiences, music, gaming. You have to make sure that your fans can continue to immerse, or else you're going to lose them. And then they're never going to stay. So you got to just keep building out, touch them all.
Super exciting that this is coming to fruition, because when I was a kid, Saturday mornings we'd wake up and we would go, play with our friends or go camping or go fishing or something. Sundays we'd go bowling, and it was always something, we're doing something on Saturday mornings. And my kids, and I work with a lot of kids today, they wake up on a Sunday morning and it's video games.
Absolutely.
It's going to the video games. So there's not a whole lot of things for a young person to drag their parents to today, right? Yeah. There's birthday events and stuff like that, but not just the typical Saturday morning, once a month kind of thing that people can do. So I think that's phenomenal. So, all right. So you're all family-based, or not all family-based experience, but that's where you really niche down at, is that family-oriented youth program. Mom, dad, child can do it all together.
Yeah. For me, for my career, that is where I found where I've been the most passionate. And I think that's also has been a lesson that I've learned throughout this whole experience. I've worked in content that's more appealing. I've worked at E! Entertainment and Esquire Network. So I've worked at pop culture, adult skewed, adult targeted content. I worked at MTV. So I worked at the young, teen and young adult content.
Yes.
But for me, I really found my love and passion in the kids and family space. And so, and this was all, again, this whole experiment of trying to run, drive my own business and sort of looking at who would be my clients and where could I provide the most value. Right. That passion is a really big part of a value that I can provide. And it's been within the kids and family space, I've discovered. So I'm loving it.
Awesome. I'll tell a little story on MTV. When 1995, I think, I drove to Chicago and I sat in line for probably 15 or 16 hours to interview as a VJ. And it was like a 1-minute interview.
Nice.
Yeah, it's like 25 hours of my life of hell, standing in the rain and the cold. And,
oh my God. Was it during one of those VJ searches?
It was. Yeah. Yes. That would have been 95. I dyed my hair red for it and everything.
Oh my God. When they had music videos, when those were a thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was a lot of fun. I was convinced I was going to get it, but I didn't.
Oh man.
I went out to do other really fun stuff, but it was, I remember wanting that VJ job so bad at MTV.
It was a cool job. It was a cool job. It was a cool job until they got that guy, Jesse, who was a crazy eccentric character. And he ended up being not making I guess he sort of made a mockery of it. And then I don't think they did it again, but he was interesting. So, yeah.
So much fun back in the day with with all the fun channels that we had in the music. It's just seems to be gone now.
It is. It's interesting. During my time at MTV, I worked at MTVU, which was a college. It was a targeted channel for college students, and it ran on college campuses. And it was very early days MTV, music video focused, short, and it was actually pre-YouTube. So it was short form content meant to be snackable in between classes and really relevant for the college audience. And they also had live events that they would take on tour to college campuses all over the country. It was fantastic. But now with YouTube and social media, like it's not a thing anymore, but it was amazing. It was amazing. So they tried to, bring back music videos and make them relevant again. And
I wish they would, because without them, we end up with the Island Boys, but so we keep moving forward. So you're a single mom you're in Los Angeles, right?
I am in Los Angeles. Yes.
Hustle and bustle, a lot of stuff going on. Pandemic hits, you decide to start your own business. What would you tell another single mom out there that is looking at all these different directions, doesn't really know where to go, has a lot of expertise, thinks that they can start a business or thinks that they know how would be good at it, but they're just on the fence for some reason. They don't think they have what it takes to get through it, or they don't know something and they want to get started, but they just need a little push. What would you tell that?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I think I mentioned this before, that relationships are key. And I would say really start reaching out to their network and building and nurture and re-engaging the network if they aren't already. Joining groups was also really big for me too. I joined organizations. So again, because I'm in kids and family, there's Women in Toys Network. There's the licensing group. Like I really, Chief is I'm not sure if you're familiar, but Chief is a sort of a growing women executive social network. And it's an incredible group of high-powered women all over the country that are there to sort of support each other and give advice and network and just be a resource. They have speaker sessions and it's educational and it's incredible. So I joined these organizations as a way to sort of network and also just sort of see what other people were up to kind of compare and see where there was opportunity for me. But networking was really the most important thing. And it's easier said than done. I think it's you got to put yourself out there. You got to kind of get that courage to kind of put yourself cold email a little bit. I mean, but you have to be very deliberate with your emails as well. So when you're writing a note to somebody and you want to try to network and engage with them, and maybe you haven't talked to them in a while, give them a reason to write back. Don't write a novel of an email, which I'm still guilty of. And I'm not even going to pretend because because of my energy and passion, I continue to just want to get everything out there. But I think just continuing to communicate and connect with people and seeing what might be like little opportunities here and there to help. I've also done stuff at no cost, which some people don't agree with, but it's part of building relationships. And so there are things like I've done, and some of them maybe haven't even produced anything yet, but I feel like are good relationship builders for the future. So there was an influencer that I happen to adore out on TikTok, and I reached out to her and said, I love what you're doing. If you need any help at any point to like broaden, this is my background. I just would love to help. And she and I have stayed in touch. She is looking to build her brand and occasionally taps in for advice. And I'm not going to charge her right now because I would love to just help and be sort of a sounding board for her. And maybe down the road, something's going to come. And I do believe that having built that relationship, she would look to me. Won't always work out. Maybe that's a little naive of me, but I'm in an opportunity, in a position I can do that. And I just really feel like those are going to lead to bigger things. So
on the giving it away or doing it for free, I'm on the fence there too. You can't give all of your services away. At some point you have to start charging. But one of my mentors, at one point, I came to an idea and he goes, just go out and try to give it away to 100 people. I'm like, are you crazy? This is a great idea. And he goes, if you can't give it away, you sure as hell can't sell it.
Well, that's true. If nobody will take it if you're giving it for free, then there's no way you can. I agree with that. That.
So it was kind of a shock to me. And that goes back to the market chooses the price for your stuff, right? If you say, hey guys, I've got this 100 free units and they fly off the shelf, then you've got something. But if you say, hey, here's this free thing and you can't give it away to 100 people, probably not the best product in the world for you to be trying to bring to market and get money for it.
Absolutely.
Right? Now, there's all kinds of other perceived value stuff that you could talk about, but it's the number of 100 that would have been a very low cost product to turn out, right? So you got to make your own decisions. Now you did something and you did some marketing pieces for an influencer. And I would just, if anybody's thinking about doing that, a lot of these influencers have affiliate programs and things like that. So there's ways to get paid on the back end with a lot of those free labor stuff with equity things and things like that. So look for those opportunities, right? My biggest fear is that there's something out there that I could have had if I would have just asked for it.
Right.
But I didn't ask for it, so I didn't get it. And
and those are going to happen. And those are going to happen. And those are going to happen. And you're going to miss those. And those opportunities are going to come. And you're going to be like, gosh, if that I wish I had. Yeah. But
and the case study that you get, right? You get a case study. You get proven track record. If you give it to somebody, say you're in marketing service, and you give them a marketing campaign or create a funnel for them at no charge. At least now you have something that you can point to. If you're a marketing guy and you're going to start a company or a marketing lady, and you start a company tomorrow and say, "Hey, I'm marketing," and they're like, "What have you done?" You're like, "Well, you'd be my first client." You're not going to get it. It's not going to happen, right? So
absolutely. But yeah, to your point, it is a case study. It's an example of work that you can show that you've done, and metrics that you can show, assuming that it's successful. And yeah, I think that's a great example. But back to your question, I think it is really just about networking, and it's going to speakers panels, and there's a ton that are for free too. Like, it's hard because a lot of them you have to pay, and you don't want to invest that much money at the time, or you may not even have it, which at certain times I certainly didn't. And so there's opportunities. And then if you can just sort of engage with those speakers and say, I saw you at X, Y, and Z, make a connection and say, I saw you inspired me. I'd love any advice. I'd love to talk about X, Y, and Z. I see there's an opportunity here. Would love to, offer any sort of support you might need or any advice that you could give me. But making those connections and getting out there. But I can't say it's for everybody. It isn't for everybody. I didn't think it was for me. I've been very fortunate. And so there was a little bit of a timing thing with my situation too. So it's not luck, though. I don't actually believe in luck. That's a whole other conversation for another time. I like to use the word that I was fortunate, because I think that in my definition of fortunate, I actually contributed toward the success of this, but it was a great thing that came. But I would say if somebody is really excellent at their job and excellent in their specialty, I think there's definitely opportunity to go out and go for what they want and try to, start their own business if they can network and find the right demand for their need. Yeah,
it is challenging. I couldn't have it any other way. And for the longest time, I did think it was for everybody. I was like, well, who would ever want to work for somebody else? That seems bizarre to me, right? But as I'm aging and I meet more people, and a lot of people don't want this stress, and it is stressful. It is a lot of work. You will never, probably for several years, have a moment of not thinking about your business, just like a child, right? Especially when it's your only means of income.
Yep, absolutely.
Right? Once it becomes your only means of income, then there's the constant, are they coming home tonight? The same as you would worry about, is this customer going to pay? Is my child coming home tonight? It's the same kinds of worries and fears. So
absolutely,
you're right. It's not for everybody, but if you think you want to try it, today there's never been a better time to try to start your own business, right? Yeah. My Go Site's a sponsor of this show. I think $25 a month gets you unlimited sales funnels, right? But Shopify, Etsy, eBay, all of those places out there, you can start a business today with little risk.
Absolutely. Right? I mean, the tools are there in a way that we've never had before. The fact that we are now Zooming, right? So you can work, remote work is absolutely, it's the gold standard. It is the standard. It is not even the gold standard. It's the expected. It can easily be done. Like I said, Camp, as being my client, they're based in New York City. A handful of us are based all over the country, and we are functioning just fine and excellent. Like it's been amazing. So the tools, the fact, it is fascinating to look at what the pandemic gave us. On the bright side, boy, did technology jump like leaps and bounds when it had to, right? There's no way we would have all been able to remote work like back then. Internet's
well, and I think the technology was there the day the pandemic hit. It was people's mindsets that had to change.
That's true. Right?
I see your point. Because Zoom's been around. We've been doing Zoom calls for years, right? Video conferencing, telephone, IP telephones, IP television, all those things for years. But the pandemic really forced. And I think, and I still fall into this. I have, I have experience-based businesses and I run data centers. So I have to have people at those locations, right? You can't not have people at those locations. So,
Absolutely.
but I do have some staff that doesn't have to be here, right? My marketing people, I can have a Zoom call with them once a week and put them on their tasks and stuff. The remote work does require more organization for the management team, I believe.
Yeah. No, I imagine so. Yeah.
But it also cuts down on the walking past Johnny's desk and saying, hey, Johnny, can you do this for me really quick? And that scope creep of Johnny never finishes anything because his boss always asks him to do some other side project. He's always getting pulled away, which
unless you have Slack. Unless you have Slack, in which case you will totally still continue to get. That's your hallway conversation right there, the Slack chats that happen for me. But
yes.
that is one thing, though, I will say, I do miss about being in the office, is that camaraderie that you build in person with people. So that is one, you can do it digitally via instant messaging like Slack, but there is that little bit of human connection that is missing. So
I'm one of the few that never had a day at home work. During the entire pandemic, I had to come into the data center every single day.
All right.
Probably more than normal because I didn't have a lot of the staff. Right.
Oh
so
gosh.
We had that whole problem. But anyway, it was interesting for me, the whole pandemic and learning how to do a lot of the mindset changes that we had to make on working with people remotely and changing schedules. And there was so much emphasis put on that 40-hour work week.
There was, and it just was, and it was that was another one about getting work done during, unorthodox times, but it was still getting done, and it could still get done, and it was on individual schedules, and it was still very productive. So fascinating. Look,
Erica, if somebody wanted to work with you and they have a family-friendly business and they wanted to work with you, how would they get in contact with you to start that process?
So, I have my website, so people can contact me at ericalenard.com. Super easy. So that's one way to start. They can also find me on LinkedIn and reach out directly. And then, I can certainly talk about, what is it that they're looking for, and I can see if my expertise and my background is worth, is something that would fit their needs. But they can certainly just contact me directly through my website or on LinkedIn, and we can kind of take it from there. And it doesn't have to be kids and family. That seems to be my passion point. But, I definitely have been able to have the background in consumer products now and retail now and entertainment and media. So it can be more than that. But so that would be the best way.
And we'll throw all those links down at the bottom, hashtag or your @ symbol for LinkedIn and all that fun stuff so they can contact you. Erica, I had a blast today learning about you and your business. So much fun. Congratulations and great job on the single mother job. I know that is a huge undertaking. I come from a single mother family, and I couldn't be more appreciative of.
And look at you now,
single mothers go through. So, and God knows I gave my mother hell through that whole process. But so thank you for all that. Do you have anything you would like to leave with the audience before we go today?
Just follow your passion. Honestly, I think that I'm so happy where I am right now because I've been following an area of business that I'm passionate about and that I love and makes me so happy every day. And if you don't have passion for what you do, it's going to be really tough to go into the work every day. And not everybody's going to love every single thing about every job. But if you have your heart, like if you can find a place in your heart for the work that you're doing, find passion. That's my biggest advice.
Yeah, it's so true. Because if you don't have it, like I have to balance my checkbook every morning. I hate it. It takes 20, 30 minutes. But I know that I get that out of the way so I can do the fun stuff and I can have these conversations, right? And
exactly.
I love this so much. So thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it and keep crushing it.
Awesome. You too. Pleasure meeting you. Thank you so much.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
That's it for today's show, folks. If you'd like to join my text line community, the number is 314-370-2871. All you have to do to join that text line is send me any question about business or technology. I'll do all the research and I'll give you an absolutely free, totally unbiased answer. Get to work.